Grovekeeper, an upcoming RTS game about defending a forest against loggers and poachers, is now a two-person project. Brendan, my colleague and friend, has jumped on board to help get the game over the line. Very little actual game development has happened in the last few months. Instead, we've been busying ourselves with the loathsome tasks of setting up a business and applying for grants, pitching to publishers, and getting all our documents in order. So a few months ago, Brendan and I spent a week in the Blue Mountains working on Grovekeeper and overhauling the systems. We got the project to a place that felt almost polished enough to start looking at getting some funding, be it through a publisher or a grant. So that's what we did. We decided to halt the development and shift focus to starting a business and getting a pitch together. There were two great opportunities on the horizon that we thought we would go for: a grant from Screen Australia called the Games Production Fund and the Games Showcase at South by Southwest Sydney. So we applied for both. Being forced to sit down and put into words why someone should hand over their money to you to let you make your game really makes you reflect on why you're doing what you're doing. It makes you try to understand what it is about your game that is unique, if there is anything at all. Something that will break through the noise of countless other amazing indie and AAA games. You have to get your ducks in a row. We created a game design document, a pitch document, a finance model, a detailed budget and a development plan, a market analysis, a website, a privacy policy, a Steam page, wishlist Grovekeeper now, gameplay trailer, brand new social media accounts, and a devlog. This is what I mean about the boring side of game dev. All the things involved in making a game that aren't making the game. These things though, however boring, are a necessity and need to be done at some point. What we're finding is that through the process of getting all the documentation together, we have a better idea of what the game is and why someone should play it. Also, if you've done a finance model or whatever for one submission or pitch, then you can use it again going forward, and it means when Brendan and I are talking to someone about the game or studio, we're on the same page. So as it turns out, we were accepted by the organisers of South by Southwest to take part in the Games Showcase, which gave us a games badge and access to most of the conference. This was a big early win for our burgeoning game studio. It meant that we would be setting up a booth in a hall full of other incredible games to showcase Grovekeeper. We had a fantastic time showing off our work on the game and spent the week surrounded by great people and excellent games. It was interesting to see where Grovekeeper stands within the market, being able to compare it against other indies. What I noticed is that we were the only RTS game on the showcase floor, and one of only a few strategy games full stop. I think it also made us realise that Grovekeeper still has a way to go in terms of being at the level of polish required to be competitive. Our vertical slice wasn't quite as polished as we thought. Despite all this, the game was received quite well actually. Those who played the game gave insightful and positive feedback. People really appreciated the environmental theme and nostalgic visuals and gameplay. They loved the Leshy Stomp, that's always a crowd pleaser. We managed to locate some weird bugs and got good feedback from RTS players about controls and shortcuts. Overall, a great time was had by all. Once the dust settled on what was an exhausting and surprisingly boozy week, we met back up as a team and got to work to plan the next steps. I really like the idea of the Trinity Hook, a concept coined by indie game dev Thomas Brush, wherein in order to stand out, a game needs to have three hooks: a story thematic hook, a mechanical hook, and a visual hook. I think Grovekeeper has the thematic hook down pat, a fun role reversal of playing as the environment against humanity in a strategy game. That works well and is a strong selling point. But when it comes to mechanical hooks and visual hooks, we might not quite be there yet. While I've put a lot of work into the RTS mechanics of the game, I'm not exactly doing anything new on that front. You've got the basic controls like attack, defend, halt, etc. But that's like saying your mechanical hook for an FPS is that you can shoot. So it got me thinking about what Grovekeeper could do that is unique mechanically. During the process of making a gameplay video, I brought into the Unity project an old FPS controller, so I could get some fun footage of the battles taking place. During those recordings, I found myself having a lot of fun, running through the battlefield and getting involved in the action. I couldn't help but feel like I wanted to attack the humans and help out my Grove Guardians. And my game design philosophy is always follow the fun. Dungeon Keeper, one of the main inspirations for this game, had a memorable mechanic where the player could choose to inhabit one of their creatures and would be able to control them in a first-person view. I always loved this mechanic and it stayed in my mind for decades. So the plan is to integrate that concept into Grovekeeper. The player will have the ability to take control of any of the creatures and fight and command their units. This is one of those potential feature creep moments, but I think it could be a really fun and unique selling point. The final point of the triangle is the visual hook. While I think Grovekeeper looks pretty at times, we realised that we're lacking a cohesive artistic direction. Some of the Guardian models that we featured in the South by Southwest demo are still my initial placeholder models, and they're pretty rough. The most cohesive models in the game are the ones that I made for the human enemies. They have a certain style to them, realistic proportions, but low poly, almost cartoony aesthetic, nostalgic 2000s vibes. So we're making it a priority to update again the player models, following a style guide and bringing my own personal touches to the models. The first one to be replaced is the Orcus. Have a look at what this looked like. Eek. So I went back to the drawing board and redesigned the Orcus from the ground up. When I was coming up with the unit vocal shouts, I used a camel grunt for the Orcus. So when coming up with this new design, I decided to incorporate elements of a camel. This is what it looks like. So he's got a long neck and a flat face, camel-esque legs and a hump, while still retaining the green, scaly elements of the traditional orc. This is a big step up, and watching this new fella in action is feeling pretty cool. So that's about it for this update. Thank you all so much for following along. I'm so pleased to be able to point you in the direction of our brand new Steam page. So please go over there and give us a wish list. It would help us out a lot in our brand new studio. Also, please make sure to like and subscribe if you found this video even remotely entertaining or informative, and make sure to look after yourselves. Peace, love, unity.